So in the 40-1 range, I think 40-1 qualifies as a long shot, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much a difference between 40 and 35-1, but you got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, maybe 50-1 is the range. Let's look at the 40 range though. There are two. Actually, we'll look at the 40s and the 50s. So we got the Raiders up next. We scroll down a little bit. Billy, Raiders, Vikings, Giants, all 40-1. The Browns and the Broncos 45-1. The Saints and the Steelers at 50-1. I gotta tell you, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. The Broncos are kind of interesting at 45-1. Right?
Yeah, huge coaching upgrade. We talked all the offseason about the Jaguars coaching upgrade last year. When you go from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson, how it's kind of almost immeasurable how much of an upgrade that is. When you go from Joe Judge to Brian Daboll, that's almost immeasurable. I mean, I don't think Hackett was quite as bad as those two, but you're getting Sean Payton. You're getting maybe a Hall of Fame level coach. So the increase might be even more here. So if he can do anything on getting Wilson, getting Russell Wilson back in his prime, or doing like not a net negative like he was in a lot of those plays, really designing an offense that caters to his strengths, they could be a really strong team. So maybe one that challenge. I mean, it's a tough division. Maybe one that challenges what Mahomes and kind of overtakes the Chargers as being that feisty second level team that could get into the wild card and make a run. I don't really like the Raiders in that sense. Not knowing what they're going to do at quarterback. So I don't really have a ton of faith there on that end.
The Raiders at 40-1. Obviously, they are in play for Aaron Rodgers as well. If you're going to bet the Jets at 30-1, you probably want to take a little Raiders at 40-1, just because if you think the Jets are going to get Rodgers and then he goes to the Raiders, et cetera, et cetera. No interest. What's really kind of striking here is that we don't know what the Raiders will do at quarterback, and we don't know what the Saints will do. They could end up getting Derek Carr. Certainly, with Dennis Allen, that connection is there. But you look on here, I mean, Kirk Cousins. I'm not saying these guys are all Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, but like Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. I mean, those are four notable quarterbacks who have been either like a really high draft pick, played at a high level, been a Pro Bowl, whatever you want to classify them, that you're getting 40-1 odds on. So maybe I take it back. I'm not saying like I love any of those four teams to actually make the Super Bowl, but to me, Denver stands out. I guess the Saints would be kind of interesting if you thought that they were going to make a big quarterback upgrade this offseason. I don't hate the Giants at 40-1 either. I mean, I know they got a lot of work to do, but I mean, in that, that division is tougher, but that conference, just anybody can come out of the NFC if you have good coaching and Daniel Jones takes another step forward.
Yeah, I don't really care about those 50-1 teams, those Saints and Steelers. I'm not really looking at them. But the Giants, I mean, they made the playoffs with not much talent. They were kind of behind the eight ball with talent. The coaching staff really flexed their muscle, showed what they can do. Now it's year two to build even more and kind of get the team looking more what you want it to look like, rather than having the pieces you have in place. And they can start to take off if they get quarterback figured out. If they figure out receivers. I know they have some depth there. They need to find a playmaker there. So we'll see what happens with them, but I have confidence in that coaching staff. I don't know that they're going to suddenly overtake the Eagles, but they could give the Cowboys a run for their money if the coaching staff kind of comes back to bite the Cowboys. Some of the talent issues there come back to play. The defense comes down a little bit. You could definitely see the Giants getting in the mix there with more talent through this offseason. Vikings could be the same too, but they seem to be a little more talented already, and they did what they did, and they still bowed out to the Giants. So I'm not sure I really trust them that much. They have a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball, obviously.
Yeah, hiring, getting rid of Ed Donatel and, I mean, it's an obvious upgrade there. They do need to get some personnel changes in. I mean, I just think, again, and people are asking, like in the comments, are sort of like, Broncos, are you nuts? Like, and no, we're not on narcotics, as far as you know, Douglas. But the point being here is not that we think the Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl, simply that the Broncos are at 45-1 with Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach who has been to the playoffs plenty of times and could easily get the Broncos back to the playoffs, is not that crazy a look. If he unlocks Russell Wilson and gets Russ to be what Russ has been in the past, then the Broncos should be closer to 20-1. So you're basically gambling on Sean Payton's belief that he can fix Russell Wilson at 45-1. I don't think it's a bad look at all. All right, now some legitimate long shots. You don't want anything to do with the Browns, right?
They're kind of interesting. I mean, you have the full season of Deshaun Watson, but he didn't look great when he came back anyway. And it's not like he didn't have the offseason to prepare. He didn't have to be away from the team the whole time. It was really more of a thing of a preseason thing. But he's done that system. He got to experience that system, and he did not look good when he came back in. Maybe the rest is shaken off, and maybe him being there will improve their chances. But I think it's still a little bit more of a stretch there, especially knowing that the Bengals are going to be tough to beat in that division.
Yeah, the Browns might be a little interesting to look if they're going to be 45-1 and 22-1 to win the Super Bowl and the conference respectively. They might be a little interesting to look at for the division whenever that comes out, because I think that would imply like somewhere in the range of like 5-1, 7-1 for the division, maybe. The Bengals are, yeah. So I mean, again, not saying we like him, just a longer shot. You've got a guy who, do we like him as a person? Don't have to, but we do. Deshaun Watson is an elite football talent.
He's been talented in the past, but he didn't look that way when he came back. We'll see if he can rediscover that a little bit. They also have some free agents, I think, on the defensive side of the ball they have to figure out. I don't know that they have the upside with their coaching staff that some of these other teams do to really reach their ceiling, but still a lot to prove there. It really does feel like they're in a strong conference of the AFC. They're one of those outside looking in type of teams.
All right, let's no interest in the Seahawks or the Steelers. Let's look at oh my Lord of mercy. Let's go down and check out some of the longer shots in the 60-1 range. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots 60-1 to win the Super Bowl. Apparently, Caesars does not believe that Tom Brady is coming back to New England and unretiring. Obviously, he's not with Tampa anymore either. They are there at 60-1 as well. The Panthers at 60-1, Titans, Falcons, Washington, whatever they are, at 75-1, and then the Bears and the Bears at 100, the Colts at 150, the Cardinals at 150, and then the Texans at 200. We don't need to scroll down to look at them because I don't think we're not messing around with any of those bottom long shots, right?
No, I don't really see that much potential there. I will say if Chicago decides to keep Fields and not draft a quarterback, they're a little bit ahead of the game at quarterback with a guy that looks like he could be a pretty good talent. If they can, unlock what they need there, just need to build around him. Really, it was really just him trying to win games by himself on that offense and then not much on defense. But they do have the number one pick. So if you bring in, absolute game changer at the number one pick, and then throughout the draft, when you're picking early in each round, you're able to do that over and over again. You can really build something in a hurry. And if you get some free agents that want to play with a quarterback as talented as that, you find some guys to come in and build a winner. Could be a little bit wide open of a division, especially if Rodgers is gone and the Vikings regress. So I don't want to rule them out too much. It feels like a little bit too much of a stretch. I don't know that they have quite the pieces in place like Cincy did when they turned everything around in 1 year. But I'm not going to rule it out. I think I would take a little offense to ruling out the Seahawks so quickly. I mean, they punched above their weight. They made the playoffs.
Yeah.
They have a top 5 pick. Who knows what they look like in this? I wouldn't completely rule them out. Patriots, huge upgrade on offensive coaching staff to go to Bill O'Brien now at offensive coordinator. Really feels like he's going to get the best out of Mac Jones, and they're going to have a lot better chance this year than they did last year. They just need to figure out also what to do at receiver, because I think they have some free agents at receiver, and it's not like they were any good in the first place with some difference makers there. So they are at least a little bit interesting, but it is a tough conference and a tough division there. So I think that's one place I would look. Don't really want anything to do with the Bucs, obviously, with Brady gone. Panthers could be interesting. It seems like somebody's going to be a value in the NFC South, whether it's the Panthers, what they do this offseason. They brought in a whole new coaching staff, so maybe that makes a difference there. So they might be a good option. We'll see if Atlanta upgrades at quarterback. And if Atlanta has a strong quarterback in place, rather than going with that Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, maybe they can make waves in a kind of underrated division where somebody's got to make the playoffs. You're not just going to give the spot to somebody else in the NFC. So one of those teams is going to sneak in. And if you're holding a 75-1 Falcons ticket or a 60-1 Panthers ticket or whatever it ends up being, you're going to feel pretty good about that. So NFC South could have like a decent value depending on who makes it out of the division. And Titans at 75-1. I mean, Jaguars look like the ascending team there, but they could also just regress. And Mike Vrabel, with his strong coaching background and his ability to outperform what the talent on this roster looks like year in and year out, maybe they go and they win the division. And then at 75-1, you're loving having a Titans ticket because they've been the number one seed in the past. They've beaten some of these good teams in the past. So if they figure out, a few places on the roster, I'm not ruling them out at 75-1. I give them a much better chance than a team like Washington or Atlanta at this point.
Yeah. Sorry, my Chrome crashes. It seems to do it freaking every day. I agree with you. Like the Patriots. I mean, I think you were saying about the Patriots as I magically disappeared, but like 60-1 for Belichick, and if that offense takes a step forward, just any step whatsoever with not Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. I mean, which is entirely possible. Panthers, man, I don't hate the Panthers. Is that weird that I don't hate the Panthers here? I think the Panthers are. I mean, you just look at who else is in this division, right? I mean, you have the Saints up a little bit up a ways a bit with the expectation that they're probably going to get Derek Carr, I think. But then Carolina could end up getting a quarterback this offseason via the draft. Frank Reich is a massive upgrade at head coach over Matt Rule, and I agree with you that the Titans. I think that AFC, the NFC North, and the AFC South are two divisions where we're sort of just like blindly giving the Jaguars and the Lions just like a little too much credit, just like they're just gonna win the division because they're taking that step because they played well at the end of this year. And that's hard to do in the NFL. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I think they are building in the right way, but at the same time, like Tennessee just finds ways to win every single year. If they get a quarterback, 75-1 is that is a big number for a team in Mike Vrabel team that has been consistently good almost every year he's coached them.
They were the number 1 seed last year, and they lost AJ Brown, obviously big loss there. Replaced him in the draft with Treylon Burks, not as good as AJ Brown, but who knows what he's looked like in year 2. So it's like, are they that far away if they can figure out a few of the things that were issues this year and keep people healthy? Maybe even go and get an upgrade at quarterback with some of the veterans that are rolling out there, and feel a little bit better about the quarterback position. I mean, once Ryan Tannehill went down and you had to go to Malik Willis, it was game over for them. Yeah. But they still had a chance to be in the playoffs, in the last week if they beat the Jaguars. So I don't understand writing that team off and putting them with the bottom 8 teams or so in the league in these odds right there, considering Mike Vrabel's background and being so successful just a year ago.
Yeah, and I mean, it is weird again. Like just to look at it, like the Saints are 30-1, and then you have Bucks, Panthers, and Falcons right there. Like that is giving either Derek Carr or whatever upgraded quarterback they think they're going to get way too much credit. And the same thing with the Jaguars. Like the Jaguars are 28-1 or 30-1, and then you have the Titans, the Colts, and the Texans all 75-1 or lower. The implication is that the Jaguars are just going to run away with that division. Which, look, it was great that they won it this year. It was a bit lucky. They got a lot of things broke their way. The division looks like it could be really bad, but I mean, whatever odds that's implying for these division odds, and it's the blank column that's not up yet. But I mean, man, I'll tell you what, you give me like the Titans at 5-1 to win the division, or whatever this is implying, like 4-1 to win that division, I will take that all day.
Yeah, they're going to be a pretty good value, I think, to win the division, and that's not taking anything away from the Jaguars. We like the Jaguars coming into this season. All of what we said last season still applies. None of that goes away, but it's a big difference of liking them to make the playoffs at 7.5-1 or 9-1 or whatever it was last year, and now being the favorites in that division, going to probably be minus odds to win the division. At that point, you start looking for value picks because they didn't necessarily establish themselves as a team that's going to take the next step after this year and go to 12-5 or 13-4 necessarily. It could be a wide open division where a team that's had past success like the Titans shows back up.
Yeah, where they just go and win 10 games and go 10-7 and you come away with a division title. I agree completely. If you were speculating anywhere on the board, doesn't matter, it can be as high as I'm trying to think what team up the top would have it, but like if you're speculating on a quarterback trade and you wanted to bet on a team based on like a future quarterback trade, what team would you be looking at?
The Jets. I think the Jets are a quarterback away. I think they're strong running game, strong receiving talent, pretty solid offensive line, and then defensively just very, very good. So I am well coached. So I just think even in a tougher conference, if you get a quarterback there, they might give the Bills a run for their money in the division. To be honest, they're just that strong and they're talented up and down the board on the roster. I wouldn't put them favored to make the Bills, but would not shock me if we get to December and they're like a game back and we're talking like, oh my God, can they finish this off?
So if they got Rodgers, where would you have them in like your power ratings? That's early, obviously, but
I mean, you really only have 5 established teams right now that are the top 5 in these Super Bowls. But so I think you got to put, I don't want to say 6, but you got to put them top 10. I think, it's with the rest of the team there. I would definitely have them. I mean, right now, if you look at the Super Bowl odds, they're 6, 7, 8, they're tied for 9th I mean, if
Yeah.
you told me right now the Jets are a top 10 team, a lot of people wouldn't believe you, but they're tied for the 9th highest Super Bowl odds right now. Some of that is the expectation they're going to get a quarterback. So it's not necessarily they're 30-1 now with Mike White or Zach Wilson or whatever. And then if they get Rodgers, it moves completely because some of that speculation is already built in. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see why they're not as good as the Cowboys, Chargers, any of these teams that are above them right now.